Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode of the Be Different series. In this episode, we will be talking about healing through self-awareness and self-love. My guest today is an entrepreneur. She and her cousin actually run a digital marketing agency called MV Media Lab. She is a mentor and a coach for digital marketing skills, and she has her own podcast entitled Mindset Breakthroughs to use her voice to spread inspiration and motivation. Perfect. Let's all welcome Jeanne Louise Montecillo.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's so exciting, and congrats on your channel. And you put out a lot of videos, so congrats.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're such a busy person, so thank you.
No worries, anything for you. And anyway, this is going to be a fun topic, and this is going to be a fun conversation, so I really don't mind.
I listened to all of your episodes in this podcast, on your podcast, and I would say my favorite would have to be the one entitled How My Journey to Self-Love Began with Self-Discovery.
Self-discovery? Yeah.
I really like that episode. Like, I definitely agree with you when you said self-love is a process.
It is.
I learned that the hard way, but this is not about me. This is about you. So, which brings me to my first question.
Yeah.
So, how did the journey of self-love begin? What's the story behind this?
So I think that's also a very tricky question, like when did it begin or how did it begin? Because we don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm just gonna love myself a little harder today, or this is going to be the day that I'm just gonna love myself. I think it doesn't work that way. Also, in reality is we think that we love ourselves during the entire time of our existence because we take care of our basic needs, like we wake up, we sleep, we rest, or like we eat, we take a shower, we exercise, or just do fun things from time to time. But in reality is self-love is much deeper than that. It's more of like really accepting both your flaws and your strengths. So I think the journey really began, like just the most pivotal journey that I could say like really changed my life was when I had like a quarter life crisis. I think we all go through that when I was like 25 or 24, when I felt really lost. I felt like such a failure big senior year. So the entire time that happened, coming from a Filipino family, they would always put this pressure on you. Oh, kind of so like eskwela, or like, what are you gonna do with your life? It's always about me doing things for them, doing things like, or even taking up nursing, like that course. I did that just for my family. I did that because that's what's like everyone was taking. That's what my best friends were taking. That's what like my family told me to take, because just to live the American dream. So I think the moment I realized that I should stop doing things for other people, just pleasing them, and just, I felt like my entire life until I was 24 to 25, everything that I've done for other people. I've done for my family, I've done for like my friends or like my boyfriend or something like that, because I feel like I was such a people pleaser in a naturally I'm such a people pleaser.
I completely understand you.
Yeah.
I'm also like that.
The moment I realized, oh, it could be a strength, but also it could also be your downfall. So the moment I just really put myself first, I think that's when things shifted for me. Putting myself first, like not just like physically, but emotionally too. And just like telling my parents or telling my family like, nope, I'm not going back to medical school. I'm just gonna do digital marketing, which is such a like crazy thing to think about 4 years ago. But well, look at me now, right? Like,
yeah,
going digital is the way now.
So we mentioned self-discovery. So I want to ask you second question. Based on your personal experience, what were the steps or maybe the questions you've asked yourself that led you to the process of self-love?
I think as a kid, or preteen to teenage kind of years, I was always a very introspective person. Like every night, or I would just like lay down on my bed and reflect on my day, which is weird, right? But
Oh, it's
before,
not.
but
I don't find
like
that
yeah,
weird.
but like so until like now. So I think the first time that it helped me discover like love myself again or rediscover myself again was when I started journaling again, because it kind of stopped when like life happens. And also I was getting teased because they were like, "Oi, dear diary." You know, I got teased a bit for that. So also I got traumatized when my mom used to read my diaries.
Oh my.
So I just like felt an invasion of privacy there. So I just really stopped. But then, like I said, when I felt like really lost and just trying to figure out what I wanted or how I was gonna really shift my life, I needed to write everything down. One thing that I could say, if you're just in this journey of loving yourself and stuff like that, accept that it doesn't happen right away, because you have to get to know yourself again. You have to write it down just so you can see what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what do you like about yourself, what do you like about what's happening in your life, what you don't like, and how you want to change it. Even like writing down your big goals, like long-term goals, it really helped, because when you see it on paper, it makes it a little more real, and you become more intentional in doing things and doing actions towards those goals. Even now, when I checked my old journal like that, I ticked almost half of everything that I put. So it's crazy. I didn't even know, but like when I started journaling again, I was like, oh, maybe I should check out my journal from 4 or 5 years ago. And then it's crazy because I kind of did whatever I wrote there.
I read something from, I think it was from Bo Sanchez book, his book. It says that there is really a certain power when you write your intention or your goals. Because maybe it's a psychological effect, no? That you're committed to it if you write it on paper.
It also helps because I know I talked about this in my podcast when I literally wrote down, because I was kind of mean to myself, you know, your negative self-talk, because, you know, as they say, you are your worst critic. So every time I'll be like, or like before I used to be super thin, that people would call me like a scarecrow, you know, in like high school or uniform or like
yeah.
So they would just literally call me a scarecrow, and then I kind of brought that towards my young adult life. Just because you're not fat doesn't mean you don't have body image issues and stuff like that. So I literally had to write down how I talked to myself, how I perceived myself. I was too thin, I was too this, I was too that. And then when I just like literally saw it on paper, I was like, oh my God, I hate myself. What is this? It's like, is this how you would like talk to someone you love if you just say it out loud, everything that you write down, like I'm not enough, I'm too young, or I'm an undergraduate and stuff like that. So that's when I realized this is not good, because we're the only ones in our thoughts and we're the only ones living in our thoughts. So we should be kind to ourselves, because our thoughts really do have power, and it just really manifests in the world with whatever you think you can achieve or whatever you think you can become.
I really agree with you with the self-discovery part. You really need to reflect a lot. We're all a work in progress. Like, you take a step further if you don't assess yourself.
That's true.
So it's really important to reflect. I don't judge if you're journaling, because I do journaling. Like, I have lots of journals.
I love people. I want people to journal, because it's such an amazing, like simple yet amazing and powerful tool that you can do every day in your life, even for 5 to 10 minutes. And even like when you had a crappy day, and then at the end of the night, you just write down 5 things you're grateful for, or 5 things that was like amazing or whatever, then it just totally shifts your mood and be like, why was I mad all day when there's like so many things to be grateful for?
What is your opinion based on your personal experience? How do self-love and self-awareness go hand in hand in process of healing.
Very. It does go hand in hand because how can you love something if you don't even know what it is or who it is? So for me, I really took a hard look in the mirror and realized I didn't like the person I was becoming. I didn't like to become that person who just
So powerful.
please other people, or I didn't like to become that person who just kept saying yes because I didn't like to not be liked, kind of, or I didn't like to make them feel like uncomfortable if I said no to the party, or I would just say no, I'd just rather not drink or something like that. So I would just rather drink, or I would just rather go out. So when I really had that moment and took a very hard look in the mirror, I was like, this is not the person that I want to be. This is not the person that I want to become 5-10 years from now. So as they say, like Darren Hardy said from the book, The Compound Effect, the first step to change is awareness. So how can you change something if you're not even aware of it? So as easy as it sounds, it's actually really hard to really sit down and be honest with yourselves, because sometimes it's hard to realize that we are at the fault sometimes, that we're the ones who are imperfect, that we also hurt people intentionally or unintentionally. And it's kind of hard because sometimes we just deny this and say, oh, it's not my fault. It was my ex's fault. He was a douchebag or an asshole. But in reality, we did have our own shortcomings too. Or like blaming my parents that they broke up. That's why I have a therapy life or whatever. But I stopped that, because in reality is we do have a choice in our lives, and we can take power with whatever the circumstance of life has given us. So I think just being aware of that, being aware that you have a choice, being aware that you're not perfect, and being aware that you only did the things that you've done with the knowledge that you had by that time. So from that, you have to forgive yourself if you've if you've done some horrible things and things that wasn't as good. You have to forgive yourself too, because then it's also a form of loving yourself and just starting the healing process then.
I really like that phrase, forgive yourself. And last question for this episode. What is your advice to those who are in the process of healing or are still healing right now?
Disclaimer though, I'm not totally healed, or I'm not like a psychologist.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, yes. But I think one of the best advice that I could give is just don't allow your wounds to transform you into something that you're not. Because most often than not, hurt people, maybe intentionally or unintentionally. So, or you become the person that you hate. Just don't allow it. Don't allow your pain, don't allow your wounds to transform you into something that you're not. And just really harness your strength to become greater than your struggle. Because if I can do it, maybe you can do it, and anyone else can do it.
True.
So yeah.
I really like how you and me both, based on our experiences, we turned our wounds into wisdom.
Yes, nice. Because I don't think there's any point dwelling into just the pain.
Yeah, true.
So it's fine if your emotions are valid. If you're hurt, then just be hurt and just feel the hurt, and just because sometimes we just push it down and pretend that we're not hurting.
Yeah.
So the more you feel it, the easier you can just process it and then move on and learn from it.
There are still a few points that you mentioned on the podcast that I really want to say before we end this episode for the audience. I just want to share the 3 points that you mentioned that I super duper agree with you. So first was forgive yourself, which you mentioned earlier. Second, I really took note of it.
I'm so glad, to be honest. I didn't even know people were actually listening.
So second point is love yourself enough to walk away from something that no longer serves your purpose. Serve purpose, yes. Third is look from within.
Oh my god. I think from a book. I think also my wisdom just comes from a lot of books that I read, a lot of podcasts and videos that I watch. So that's also one thing.
Louise, where can we find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at it's Jeanne Louise, and also you can listen to my podcast the Mindset Virtues podcast with Jeanne Louise. It's available on Spotify, Apple, and on all the other stuff. But I think
highly recommended, guys.
So I'll be dropping a new episode, or it's already gonna be out when this video comes out. It's called How to Turn Your Self-Doubt into Greatness or Goodness.
Wow.
Talking about self-doubt and talking about imposter syndrome. So hope you guys
I'll listen to that. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope that inspired you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Be brave.
Be different.
Be different.
Yeah.